Our digital exhaust is quite big, and I love that term, digital exhaust. It perfectly tells you just all the data that Ulta creates. Now, the challenge is how do you take that digital exhaust, that data, and turn it into insights back to the business?
Welcome to Technovation. I'm your host, Peter High. My guest today is Mike Maresca. Mike is the Chief Technology and Information Officer of Ulta Beauty, an $11 billion revenue beauty and health company based in the Chicago area. The company has nearly 1,500 stores and another nearly 500 through a partnership with Target, but it also sells in excess of $2 billion worth of products online. Mike and his team have helped augment digital customer experience and personalization by investing in innovative projects. All of this has been enabled through setting a new cloud-based foundation for the company as well. I look forward to hearing about these topics and more from him through this conversation. Prior to his roughly 1.5 years with Ulta Beauty, he spent more than 2.5 years as the Global Chief Technology Officer of Walgreens Boots Alliance. Mike, welcome to Technovation. It's great to speak with you today.
Hi, Peter. Great to be here. It's exciting, and I hear you've been to Ulta before, so maybe the background looks a little familiar to you.
It does indeed. Yeah, it's bringing back good memories of past trips. I hope I'll have the opportunity to see you there before too long as well. Well, Mike, why don't we dive into it? I would love to begin with, for those who may be less familiar with Ulta Beauty's business, an overview of it from an executive like yourself. Provide a bit of context for us as to the business you're in.
Ulta Beauty is an $11 billion retailer headquartered here in beautiful Bolingbrook, Illinois. And we're really passionate about beauty and delivering an exceptional customer experience. We've got close to 1,500 stores, and we have a great partnership with Target and with our shop in a shop in Target, which adds another 550 stores. And we've got an incredible online business, which is about roughly a little over 2 billion of that 11 billion organization here at Ulta. So what we do as a retailer, as a beauty enthusiast, is really impact beauty and wellness in the lives of our customers. And we are so passionate as a team. Nearly 55,000 associates that work across our stores and here in corporate are really kind of meeting the needs of our customers every day. We have just recently announced expansion into Mexico, which will become a reality in 2025. We're real excited about that first step outside of the U.S. We have a great partnership there. I think we're going to be expanding close to 10 stores in 2025. So stay tuned. The U.S.-based Ulta retailer is going to become international, and we're excited about these steps into Mexico.
Understandably so. Very exciting news. Let's talk a bit about your role, Mike. You are the Chief Technology and Information Officer, a role you've had for a little less than a year and a half now. What's within your purview?
I have the privilege of leading an amazing team, IT professionals that work every day, show up every day to deliver that exceptional customer experience that is really so central to how we deliver for our customers, whether it be online or in our stores. I have the privilege of leading kind of the strategy, the technology strategy, forward-looking technology roadmap that really we align to how we run a more effective global retailer or drive innovation or that exceptional customer experience that our customers or our guests have come to know and love. So it's the strategy around how we deliver for the business and how we use technology to meet those core objectives. I am also on the forefront of driving our digital transformation, whether that again be how we run a large organization and how we deliver experiences through e-commerce, our mobile apps, our in-store interactions, really putting the guest at the center. I'm also very passionate about how we imagine our platform strategy. So overseeing the systems that power our internal operations, from e-commerce to workflow automation to our data platforms, integration, analytics. Our infrastructure and operations, we run 7 distribution centers, so leading efforts on how we power our supply chain. And of course, I own our approach to cybersecurity and risk management, keeping our customers and guests' information safe and being able to deliver for the business from an IT perspective.
Fascinating. Great overview there, Mike. I appreciate that. I wanted to get into, you referenced your strategy and the fact that you lead the development of the long-term roadmap, as you put it. I wanted to talk to you about a few of the aspects of the strategy that you've noted to me in prior conversations and double click on each of them if you don't mind. The first is, and I'm paraphrasing here, you'll let me know if I'm not capturing the essence of any of them, but accelerating the business through technology and digital transformation. You alluded to digital transformation a moment ago. Talk a bit about that notion of accelerating the business. I love the picture of momentum that you are providing for the broader business through the work that you and your team are doing. Talk a bit about how that's done.
Yeah, so I think you picked up on the word pace. Since I've been here, I joined last year, so just about a year and a half. It's really kind of how does IT keep up with the pace of our business? In fact, I like to say that we like to accelerate it and be equal partners at the table. When I first joined, I listened more than I talked, trying to understand what the needs of the business, what the needs of IT were. We actually brought forward 6 key priorities that make up the IT strategy. First, to always be business led. It's got to be relevant to our business. How do we unlock value? How to create competitive differentiation? How do we deliver an even more unique guest experience across all touch points, through technology-led strategy? The second part is just what are the underlying technology foundations that are so critical to delivering that experience for our guests? Do we have the agility? Do we have the scalability? Of course, you always ask the question, do I have tech debt that I need to pay attention to? If it's core to our strategy, let's make sure we address tech debt. Part of that technology foundation is a robust cloud strategy. We can't deliver what we do at the speed of our business without the innovation, but also the speed of the cloud. And we've been investing in our cloud capabilities. We are a multi-cloud. We believe that that is the best strategy, which allows us to leverage the capabilities of 2 of our partners in the right way and meet the needs for Ulta. The third is really around the operating model, the ways of working. With these great platforms that we have, how do we change the way of working so we're close to the business needs, the guest needs, but also are able to deliver in an agile way? And I can expand more on that as well. The fourth area is talent. And I think any CIO that's worth their salt will say talent is the thing that they focus on more. And that includes not only the internal resources that we have, the special team that works for Ulta, our badged employees, but also the partners that we use to bring in capabilities that we need that help us differentiate ourselves. The fifth area is really around data and AI. You can't go to most conferences without hearing about data and AI. And I think driving insights off the data that we have as an enterprise is so critical to being a leading edge company. And of course, the sixth area that I'm so passionate about is how do I continue to innovate with the business? That'd be on digital experiences. It could be as simple as doing some of the brilliant basics that, automation in our stores so that our associates can actually spend more time with our guests when they're in stores. So that's the 6-part strategy that I have. I'd be happy to double click in any one of those for you. But, it's the application of that strategy, which I think is where the magic is. It's, I think most CIOs would say, yeah, that sounds about right. But it's how that we partner with the business, how we energize our teams to actually go be passionate about, of course, how you look at your investment in each one of those areas so that you're moving all 6 of those forward in a way that is balanced, but also prioritized with where the business needs. So that's the strategy that we've deployed, and I think it's working well for us here at Ulta.
You mentioned in multiple parts of our conversation so far the development of unique guest experience. And I'd love to have you talk a bit more about digital components to that. To the uninitiated, Mike, yours is a very tactile business, beauty and enhancing one's beauty. But there are some really remarkable innovations that you and the team have implemented to augment customer experience, guest experience through digital means. Can you talk a bit about some of the components you've leveraged?
Yeah, there's so many things to talk about. Let me focus on a few. Certainly, the experience that you get online, right? But that experience needs to extend in our stores. So we really believe being able to provide what we call an omni-centric approach is so critical to meeting the guests where their needs are. The accessibility that you get online combined with the convenience to be able to pick it up in your store. That is, obviously what I would call kind of the brilliant basics. We have that. It works well. We know that our guests really appreciate that. But if you want to stay online, we have what we call GlamLab. It's our virtual try-on capability. It allows our guests to scan their face and actually try on various beauty products. And that is so innovative. is so cool. You should try it, Peter. But that's really kind of meeting the needs when you can't be in our store, and you want to virtually try different products that are more personalized to you. And in the area of personalization, we're doing amazing things, right? What we call hyper-personalization. We have a 44 million member loyalty program, right? And if our guests are going to be gracious enough to join that program, we believe that personalizing the guest experience is something that is a must do. The product recommendations, hey, you're running out of a certain product. Can we get it there for you in time so that you don't miss a beat on your beauty regimen? Those are, I think those are three that I would call out. The convenience that we provide in store as well as online. The virtual try-on, which is more Gen AI augmented reality, which it meets the needs of our guests when they're just simply shopping at home. And of course, the 44 million loyalty members and how we use their shopping journey to give back to them more convenience and personalization. So I think I would call those three out.
That's great. I'd love to get deeper into some of the innovation conversation. But before we do, I want to return to a point you raised about the necessity to have a strong tech foundation. You talked about not only the importance of the cloud, the multi-cloud strategy you have, but also the importance of agility and scalability, and not least of which retiring tech debt. This is in many ways the anchor for a lot of organizations that keeps the ship from moving readily or pivoting readily. Can you talk a bit about the steps that you and the team have taken to set that better foundation upon which
Right.
some of the innovations you've already described and perhaps others we'll talk about can in fact flourish?
Yeah, a few key foundational things that we put in place since I've been here. First is the cloud. Most companies that have kind of driven hard in the cloud have found out that there's cost issues. So we've been focused over the last year and a half to be excellent in cloud, managing our costs, but embracing and adopting as much as the innovation that's out there. Um, with the right guardrails, as you might expect. And we operate across GCP, so Google Cloud Platform for our consumer technology, and then we have just recently finished an ERP S4 deployment onto the Azure platform with Microsoft, and those provide us the resiliency as well as the scale that we need to run our business. And obviously, you tap into two ecosystems that provide a great deal of innovative services that really would be cost prohibitive to build on your own. And then really what really attracts most companies and most CIOs to the cloud is the on-demand services, right? We've all started up big projects and procuring, racking, and stacking hardware. It just adds months to the schedule, and it allows us to kind of almost pivot in real time to the needs of the business because of the on-demand nature of the services that the cloud. And then what's inherently built into it is the security at all layers. And running a secure enterprise is a top priority for any CIO. So we feel great about where we're at in cloud. I think we run close to 60% of our workloads in the cloud, and we're analyzing how much more as we look at the other thing you mentioned, technical debt. As we start to modernize certain areas of our IT stack, we are going to be a cloud-first organization. So we've got two great partners that can help us with that. The other area in terms of a tech foundation, and this is true, I think, of most organizations, you need a resilient network because everything's either an app or in the cloud. And of course, the network is essential part of how you deliver those services. The investments that we're making across our stores so that we can have even more immersive experiences for our guests when they visit us on location is something that we started last year. We're now about 25% in terms of moving towards a next gen network in our stores. And we just recently, as of earlier this calendar year, finish our corporate network transformation. Those are the foundational. There's certainly other foundational platforms that we looked at, but those were the key ones that we focused on very early in my journey here.
Really interesting. I want to also talk about the operating model. You made some interesting points about with great platforms in place, you have to get closer to the business and to guests to understand their needs and operate in an agile way to deliver against those. Talk a bit about your insights there and some of those operating model changes that have brought that to life.
Yeah, this is really hard. Changing the way you work. There's a lot of muscle memory in terms of, you must have a project-based approach to everything, and that's just not how the world works. So let me tell you a little story on that. So we just finished three major programs. So one of the things that I was amazed about when I came here is the ambition of this company. We had done a major S4 3-year program was underway. A data modernization program was underway. And the third one was we were replacing our digital store platform. So three major initiatives that most companies do one at a time. We were doing all at once. It was one of the things that really attracted me to Ulta is, of course, any IT enthusiast would say, let's do really cool stuff. And we were doing really cool stuff. We finished all three of those last quarter. And now we're switching into drive value on those platforms. And the one area I'll focus on is what we're doing for our e-commerce business. We have implemented agile methodology and taking more of a product-centric approach to what we build on that platform. And I really believe that if we stuck with the old operating model, we wouldn't be able to deliver things in weeks, not months. We have been able to do amazing things. And it's really about creating these fusion teams, the business, product, and IT working together close to what the business needs, reevaluating on a quarterly basis. In fact, today we have what we call our big room planning going on. Those teams are focused in areas of the business and they're talking about what our guest needs. And I think it's fascinating. I can't wait to go down there and kind of peek in on what the teams are doing. But that's where the magic happens. We talk about products, right? Products are looking at evolving capabilities over a life cycle. So it's search, it's your basket, building in feature functions over time. So we implemented a product operating model. We have changed the way the teams work. They're working in fusion teams together, close to the business problem. We're giving them the flexibility at that local level to be creative and innovative. And we've also adopted an agile methodology, which allows us to react and even anticipate the guest needs in more real time. And we've had some tremendous success, right? We delivered new capabilities. We just announced last week our community page, which is bringing beauty enthusiasts together. It's community.ulta.com. It's great. It's online, a dialogue, our customers interacting in real time, giving each other beauty advice. It's topic based. We delivered that in 2 months. I think this is what will allow us to drive the value on those foundational investments that I just talked about. And it really is about speed and being in close proximity to the customer and the guest needs. So we're real excited about the changes that we're making and how we're working, and we see early results, and they're tremendous.
Phenomenal. Mike, it's fascinating to hear more about the operating model changes that you've made and the consequences of having done so. And as I'm hearing you talk throughout this conversation, I'm thinking about another one of your strategic areas, talent, and the fact that with the changes you've described, whether it's new capabilities you're bringing to bear, new operating model, as you point out, new levels of proximity to the broader business as well as to customers, that there must be some changes that are necessary from a talent perspective, changes that is to existing talent, perhaps through retraining, maybe bringing in some new talent as well that is reflective of where the business and where your organization is going, the skills of the future rather than the skills of the present and past. I wonder, how do you think about that from a talent perspective, and what are the ways in which you bring that to life?
I believe IT is really a people-centric business, even though it does include a lot of automation, but it's really the people that actually inspire the technology. And we have made a change. We are looking future forward, and more cloud, more data, more agile than we ever were. And we've done a few things that I think are really impactful, not only to the team that we have, but also our partners. First, let me talk about the team that we have. I felt that we need to scale IT in certain areas. In some of the areas that I just mentioned, our e-commerce business is flourishing. Do we have the right e-commerce skills? Just to tell a little story on that, we've grown tremendously over the last 6 to 7 years. And in some respects, the IT talent that we have here hasn't grown with it. So we made some strategic adds in certain areas, e-commerce being one, cloud, which I'd mentioned as well. and really to bring in the right talent to help us drive our strategy going forward. We also took care, and I'm very passionate about the team that was here, creating a culture of learning. So we brought in a new learning platform, which gave really the opportunities for our team to really level up and really build their careers and really create opportunities not only here at Alt, but help them build their careers. It's one thing to actually give them the opportunity, but it's also you have to prioritize. How many times do you put training is good, do it, and then you never give them enough time in the day to do it? So we've actually made it a priority at Alt to create that culture of learning, which I'm so passionate about because I'm a life learner. I love to read books and constantly stay on top of trends. And it's actually something that we've made fun here at Alta. And of course, we talked about the ways of working. I think a lot of that is still in motion, but we get the right team, the right ways of working, the right technology, you can make good things happen.
Fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing those details, Mike. I want to talk a bit more about data and artificial intelligence, the fifth
Yeah.
strategic component you talked about. As you noted, these are hot topics and all the more important, again, given what you've described in terms of the necessity to innovate and provide personalization and so on. Understanding and gathering the right kind of data and parsing it in the right way becomes that much more important. Can you talk a bit about the advances that the team have made from a data and AI perspective?
First I'll talk about that investment that I mentioned earlier in terms of our modern data platform. We just finished that journey. I think it was just in August, and we're real excited about what we have in terms of an enterprise asset. It's our data all in one place. Now it's time to innovate. Think about the digital exhaust at any large company, but specifically, and I love that term, digital exhaust. It perfectly tells you just all the data that Ulta creates. We have almost 1,500 stores. If you add Ulta at Target, it's another 500. So almost 2,000 stores in our ecosystem and the data that they create. We have 55,000 associates. We have 7 DCs. We have 44 million customers in our loyalty program. Our digital exhaust is quite big. Now, the challenge is how do you take that digital exhaust, that data, and turn it into insights back to the business? And I think we have a tremendous opportunity there. I've talked previously about personalization. How do we take the customer data and create a hyper personalized experience for our guests? And that is certainly one of the top priorities here for us at Alta. We are exploring Gen AI. So as you personalize, you need the data, but you also need content. And that's where I think Gen AI as a technology, and it's a new technology, we're still trying to grow into it. I think that's where that shines. And we have a great partnership with Adobe. We're exploring their capabilities around how we create content at scale so that aligns with our personalization agenda. And we're very early in that, but we're very excited and certainly very passionate about what that can mean for our guests as we meet them where they are with content and product recommendations that really meet their needs. We're actually even Gen AI, we've actually brought into IT as well. One of the use cases that we're scaling rapidly into is co-pilots for all our engineers. We've rolled that out. We're seeing a 30% productivity improvement in terms of their ways of working. So we're excited about that. We also think there's a quality angle to it. We haven't been able to measure that, but that is something that we are exploring. We're real excited about that. And I think there's other ways in which we're using AI, whether it be just automation in our stores. It's how we run a more effective supply chain across those 7 DCs and how we flow the products that our customer needs or our guest needs into our stores. That is heavily leveraging data and algorithms to make sure we get the right product, the right place, the right stores. So I think data and AI, certainly all the buzz, the trend out there, but the new platform that we have, the team that we're actually building, and some of these great examples of where we're able to turn that data into insights, but also into actions and really value for our company, but also more importantly, our guests. I think we're well along our way in terms of driving value through data.
Fantastic. Yeah, really compelling. As you described innovation earlier, you've had some really interesting examples of the brilliant basics, as you put it, automation in stores so associates can serve customers better, for example. You talked about hyper-personalization even in your last response as well, and the better use of data, the use of generative AI for that hyper-personalization. Are there other examples of innovation that you would underscore or other trends that particularly excite you that you're investing in?
Yeah, we talked about, I think, virtual try-on. We call that GlamLab. So that's a patent and trademark capability that we have, and we continue to evolve it. So it provides that virtual try-on capability that I think our guests appreciate. We've talked about some personalization, and I think that's where we're probably innovating the most. Personalizing product recommendations, personalizing content, which I mentioned, how we show up for the customer in terms of personalized e-commerce experience, their homepage, so to speak. We're also looking at some out there things in terms of how we browse through robots. Man, if I could take you into one of our distribution centers, you'd actually see robots on the floor that help us pick and deliver it back to a staging location. And that's where we pack the product and get it to the stores. The accuracy on that is great, especially when we have to scale into holidays where we actually bring on temporary labor. The ability for them to get up to speed because they're assisted by a robot in terms of how they picked for the customers. It's pretty amazing what we can do and what we're doing with some of the innovative capabilities. Again, you have to work very closely with the business. Trying to find that intersection of technology and business need is really where the magic is, and it's really what gets us very excited.
Fascinating examples. I really appreciate you sharing those. I wanted to, before letting you go, see if there's, you mentioned earlier, you love to read, you love to remain abreast of tech trends. Anything you've recently read or for that matter, watched or listened to that you would recommend to your peers?
Yeah, I do read. A lot of it's just for pleasure, the spy thriller, et cetera. But the one that I've just recently read is called Co-Intelligence. Yeah, I think it's very relevant to what we're doing here. I think you even read it yourself, right, Peter? But I really enjoyed that book, so I'd recommend that to some of the listeners. It's a great book. It's very short, but it gets into things like how do you elevate the shopping experience, personalization, the engineering side of things, how to innovate. I think it's a great read and is one that I would recommend.
That's a great one. And Ethan Mallock's a past guest here on the podcast as well, the author of that one. Great suggestion there, Mike. Well, Mike Maresca, thank you so much for a fantastic conversation, emblematic of the remarkable work you and your team are doing at Ulta Beauty, the innovations already brought to life, but also some sneak peeks into what's to come as well. It's been a great conversation.
Thank you, Peter. Would love to do it again.